And welcome back everyone to the recap of round number 9. I just finished my game. I'm still full of adrenaline. Again, I'm gonna spoil you today. Also didn't go my way. I again lost the game against a lower rated opponent. About the pairings, I played, as you can see, against my fellow countryman Lukas Dotzer, which was quite an unpleasant pairing. First of all, he's young and extremely talented, and you could also say underrated. And second of all, he's Austrian, so it's why do I travel here just to play against an Austrian? And of course, to play against two such young and talented players in a row is also not that lucky. So the tournament is just not going my way. But the game was very interesting, and I actually enjoyed playing today's game, which is nice. Honestly, because I felt like I was under so much pressure in this tournament. I built myself all this pressure, and today I just I managed to simply enjoy the game, which is quite important as well. So he played e4. In general, he's very good in theory. He knows many different lines very well. So today I just had the Today I was just thinking to stay solid and not to overdo it, because I saw many games where he played against grandmasters who didn't maybe take him as seriously as they should, and they got completely punished for it, basically. And I didn't want to end up like that, because I know that he's a strong player, and that I don't want to take any unnecessary risks in the opening. So if it's a draw, it's a draw. That's kind of what I thought, since he's a very strong player. So it was e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and he went for bishop b5, and I played the Berlin defense, which is kind of my main opening if I play against strong opponents. And he went for the very solid line short castle, knight e4 and rook e1. Of course, white has many options, like d3 is one of them to kind of get a more complex game, but he went for this, knight e4, rook e1. Of course, the other line being d4, when there's the famous Berlin endgame here with e takes e5. But yeah, he went for rook e1, knight d6, knight takes e5. He also did play this line a4, which is also quite interesting, and I also prepared for that. So he went knight e5, bishop e7, bishop f1. We're kind of following the main line here. Short castle d4, and now I chose the line knight e8. Since I saw that after bishop f6, rook e1, rook e8, which is the main line, he goes for this line with knight c3, which is quite sharp, and I didn't want to enter that. There's this pawn sacrifice here when black just has to know a lot of theory, and then in the end it's a draw. But I also wanted to have a game, basically, and not just to rely on theory. So I went for this move, knight e8. Of course, white also has many very safe options. Like if he wants to have a very solid game, he can go something like c3, and those positions will probably be quite hard for white to lose. But as I thought, since he's quite an ambitious player, he went for probably the most ambitious move, which is d5. Another option here is c4, kind of using the fact that black didn't go d5 yet, and after bishop f6, rook e1, now d5. This is how the line goes when it continues c d5, queen d5, bishop e3, and white keeps some chances, but also black keeps some chances on the other hand. So here there is still some play left. Same as with d5, which he played. I played bishop c5, which is the main move. Now I have the threat of bishop takes f2, so he went rook e1. Like, let's just say he goes knight c3, I can take here, and there's queen f6 winning the exchange. So I went rook e1, d6, knight c3, and bishop f5. Otherwise, white will get knight e4. So bishop f5, now knight e4 is what he played, but now I get to take on e4. Another move for white is to go bishop d3. That's perhaps a more solid option. So he went knight e4, I took and went f5 here. Keep in mind, I was still more or less in book. I still somewhat remembered what I was supposed to do here. So this move f5 kind of looks like it's weakening the e6 square, but actually the rook on e6 is not doing much, because I can always just go g6 and then kick it out with knight g7. And I think bishop h6 probably fails due to queen h4 or due to bishop takes f2, when again there is the same trick with the double attack. So he went rook f4, which is the best move, but I was a bit surprised here, because he was already spending some time, and I think that rook f4 to come up with this move over the board is very impressive, to say the least, because it looks like the rook on f4 is very much misplaced. But it's actually the best way for white, because if he just goes rook e1, for example, I think I have quite an easy play. Like I have ideas with queen h4, maybe just knight f6 here. Not entirely sure what I would do. But rook f4 is in fact the best move, and now white has some ideas also with g4 attacking this pawn. And in general, the rook is not as bad as it seems on the 4th rank, because it's also kind of threatening to go before. That's why I went a5, and yeah, I still knew that move. Just the idea is to prevent b4. Here he went bishop d3, g6, and now he went b3 when I was finally completely out of book. I still remembered somewhat the move queen f3, and I think that my preparation went knight f6 now. Over the board I was also thinking about knight g7, which also looked somewhat playable to me, but knight f6 is what I remembered, and there is the move bishop takes f5, at least from my memory, and after g takes f5, rook f5, which I think has the evaluation of 0.00. And I think the only move here is bishop d4, and somehow it's a draw. I was trying to figure this out over the board, but it's also not very obvious for white because there are no like concrete threats. He can go bishop g5, but still there are no concrete threats. I wasn't entirely sure what I would do here. I was calculating queen e7, and then rook e8 will come, like for example after c3. Even here I could go rook e8, could be one idea, because he cannot take because of queen e1 with checkmate. So that's another option. I think that, again, queen f3 is probably the best objective move, but he went for b3, which is also quite logical, trying to get the bishop to b2 on this long diagonal. But in general, I felt that the bishop on b2 doesn't, like, of course it's a nice piece, but it's quite far away that white gets this battery and has some mating threats in general. So I went knight g7, which is not the best move here. As you can see, I actually spent a lot of time, which is probably time well spent, because I had so much time still, and I wanted just to get into the position basically, since my preparation just ended. And the knight can go to h5 sometimes, but my idea was, as we can see, to go queen g5 as it happened in the game. Maybe objectively better is knight f6, which I also saw in the game, but after bishop b2, now knight e4. That's what I was thinking, and if he takes here and takes everything, bishop d4, I thought there is just not much happening in general. It's probably equal anyway. So yeah, maybe this is a more correct way of playing. But I also got my chances after knight g7. So he went bishop b2, which is the logical follow-up, and now queen g5. This was my idea, and now we can see the rook on f4 is actually somewhat misplaced. He went at g3. Otherwise, as we can see in the game, g3 was then actually kind of a weakness, but I didn't really see what else he could do, because there is queen d2, but this looks a bit awkward to go into this pin. The point is that knight h5 doesn't, I think, work just yet because of queen c3 when there are some mating ideas here. But I thought there are ideas like bishop b4. I could also go rook e8 perhaps. So this looks a bit awkward. Rook f3 might also be an option. But here I was also thinking, I think, yeah, just rook e8 was my idea when white cannot really finish his development because his queen is kind of cut off. And if rook g3, I thought I at least have a repetition, but could even try to play on something like this, for example. Or here queen h4. I think that was what I was thinking. But he went g3, now knight h5, rook f3 and f4, very logical. I just want to open up the f-file, and here I already thought that the position is probably quite dangerous for him, at least practically speaking, but I also always have to watch out because, if the queen goes to c3, it can go wrong quite fast. Also this bishop, if it somehow goes to e6, then it's not good, not any good news for me. Also rook e8 seemed quite logical here for me. Not to allow queen d2, but here I didn't like something. I think just king g2 when I didn't really see how to follow it up. I guess I could also go f4 now, which is probably transposing, but wasn't quite sure about it. So I went f4. I thought this is logical. Queen d2, and now I went rook a8. So now king g2, and now we're back to what we saw before. So this is transposing. So as I said, I don't know. Maybe rook a8 to start with is also possible. Yeah, I chose this move further with f4. So I went rook e8, he went king g2, and here I think I took a glimpse of the engine. This move bishop b4, which I played, is I think not objectively the best. In fact, here I already made the mistake. Rook e8 is not the best move. Queen g4 apparently is good. which is actually quite logical. I'm not sure what I didn't like here. I think bishop e2, but now I guess I could go rook e8. Yeah, not entirely sure what I didn't like here. Queen g4, maybe queen c3 is what I was thinking. Yeah, queen c3 is I think what I was thinking about, and now it seems like rook f6 is a move which I didn't really see. So I went rook e8, king g2, and now bishop b4. So the idea was just to shut out this bishop on b2. And if he goes c4 now, I will anyway go bishop b4. And I'm also avoiding queen c3. That's another idea. And also I want to remove this queen from d2 because then I can finally take on g3. So the queen on d2 is always preventing me from taking here because my queen on g5 is hanging. So here he went bishop b5. Apparently rook f1 is very strong, which I didn't really think about that much in the game. But simply white wants to take control of the f2 square, basically. And here the computer gives a big advantage to white. So rook f1 would have been a very strong move. But he went bishop b5, which I also thought is very reasonable. And here, at first, I wanted to play either rook e7 or rook e5. So I was thinking about rook e5, for example. And now c4, take on g3, take on f8, for example, take here, and queen d2, take here. And I thought this is probably okay for me, but I also wasn't sure because he has the two bishops, and I have to be quite careful. Like, for example, if he takes here, I'm not entirely sure. I guess I can go for this, but here I probably have to suffer. Probably it's a draw, but it's a bit worse for me. And yeah, what else was I thinking about? Knight f4 is also one option to get knight d3 in, but in general, I wasn't quite sure. Like king h1 now, for example, and then rook f1 is coming, so I didn't really like it that much. And then all of a sudden, I saw the quite amazing idea bishop e3, which in fact is a very, very nice idea, and it's also the best objective move. And all of a sudden, it becomes quite dangerous for white. So I'm very happy that I found this move bishop e3. The point is, if he takes on e3, I thought I have f takes g3. Sorry, not f takes g3, or was it here? Let me think. No, f takes e3, that was the idea. And if he takes here, then I will just get rook f2, which is probably quite devastating for him. And I was also thinking about queen e2 here, when I thought I have two options. What I liked the most was just to take here and go rook f8. And after queen e4, I thought this is probably good for me because he has to go to g1 or to h3. I wasn't entirely sure. Because king h1 fails because of knight g3, takes and queen h5. I saw this when it's going to be checkmate on the next move because there's queen f3 and queen g2 checkmate. And here there's queen h2 mate. So that was a nice trick. I thought also the same might work after king g1. No, here I thought I could at least take on b2. And also the same here. If king h3, I thought that I can take here. Maybe there's something better which I missed. But I thought here I'm not really running any danger because if rook f1, at least I can always play rook f2. And otherwise my king will go to h6. So I thought this should be quite good for me. So I thought, as I said, he cannot take on e3. That's what I was thinking. Actually, after bishop e3, now that I see I'm already winning here. So bishop e3 is actually a fantastic move. I have to say that out loud here. I'm really happy about that move. He played h4, and here I played way too fast. I played queen g4, which is a big mistake. Instead, queen e5 would have kind of ended the game on the spot, basically. Because after queen g4, he has queen e2, and now I cannot... Well, I can take on g3, which I did in the game, but it's actually not good. Because my queen will sometimes be hanging on g4. Actually, we'll get to that later. That was also quite a funny idea. So queen e5 would have been much stronger when, again, he cannot really take here because I will just take, then take on f3 and go rook f8, and it's just over. And otherwise, if he goes queen e2, what do I do here? Can I just take on g3? Is that it? I think so, yeah. Looks just lost for white. So queen e5, I don't know why I didn't play that. I mean, it's quite a logical move. I think I just saw the nice idea after queen g4, queen e2, f takes g3, which is also very beautiful. Here I missed the move fe3, which he played. But the point is, if rook f8, queen g4, he gets the queen. But now I have rook takes f2 check. And if he goes here, it's checkmate on h2. If he goes to h1, it's checkmate on h2. And if he goes to g1, I thought I at least can take the queen. Rook f4, and then I'm gonna take here, even though now I'm seeing there is king f3, so still not entirely sure here. Maybe I have to go for the repetition even here. Okay, I can take this, but what is better? Let me just see what the computer is saying. So king g1. Wow, I have this, and knight f4. That's very nice. I have to say, I didn't see that in the game. That's just insane. And I guess rook h1 is coming with the checkmate. I'm still not fully understanding it. Because queen c8 check, I guess king g7. And if c4, can I just run out? Ah, there's rook b2 also. But I guess I could even go here. So that's insane. That's quite a nice line. So I thought this is, this is just very nice. By the way, fg3 is not the best move here. Rook e5 is still winning for me. And funnily, I guess he can still not take, because maybe there's knight g3, which looks very strong. And then I'll have some discovery. So rook e5 is still winning, but I took here, and now he played f takes e3, which I think I just missed for some reason. What I maybe missed was that after knight f4, rook f4, queen e2, the queen is protected. That could be the case. And after bishop e2, rook f4, now king g3, white is probably better here. Yeah, white is just winning even. So I went queen e4, which is still the best resource, because he's somewhat pinned down here. By the way, I was also thinking, so many interesting lines here. I was also thinking about taking here and then going rook f8. But now he has to go to the 4th rank. I thought that king g4 is the best. Otherwise, if he goes to the 2nd rank, I'm simply picking up the bishop on b2. And king g4, I was spending a lot of time about this line. Rook f2 now. And his problem is the bishop doesn't really have anywhere to go, but he has rook b1. And after g2, he has bishop a1. That was where my calculation basically ended, because now sooner or later he will pick up this pawn, and I thought I don't really have any more threats here. So yeah, this is already clearly better for white. So that was, I think, the only way for white here to save the game. Otherwise, if he goes to, he cannot go to the 1st rank because I will queen, and if he goes here, then I will pick up the bishop because it's trapped. So I spent a lot of time here, and then in the end I saw bishop a1, and therefore then I just played queen e4. He went rook e1, which again he defended this quite well. Rook e1 is probably the best. Also, rook f1 is probably an option. When now knight f4, I thought this is probably a draw. If I take here, take everything, and take on b2, even though he should be probably a little bit careful, but yeah, probably there's just nothing here, just a draw. So rook f1 is, I guess, also good enough. He went rook e1 instead, and now I went rook e5. I don't have any like concrete threats, I thought, because if I take on h4 here, he can just go rook h1, which will be similar to the game, but not quite. Also here he could, yeah, I think rook h1 was a problem. Also, I cannot really take on f3. It doesn't really do anything because of the queen f3. I simply don't have anything. Because queen c2, he can just play rook e2. So I played rook e5, which at least practically is quite unpleasant for him. And here he also blundered, queen d1. Bishop d3 apparently is the best. I thought that I have rook f3 here. And after bishop e4, rook f2, when I guess he has to take, and I thought king f2, only move rook e4, and yeah, apparently this is a draw, rook h1, but this looked quite scary for white from the far. So this is probably white's best here to go for this. But instead he went queen d1, and here I went rook f5, which now I see is a mistake. Apparently, yeah, that was a chance. Rook f3, and if queen f3 now, was it here? Was it here, knight f4? Not entirely sure. No, this is not so clear if this is even a mistake. Rook f3, queen f3, knight f4. How does it? Yeah, e takes f4, queen f3, king f3, and now is it just rook e1? Is that it? And again, he has some problems with the bishop. I think what I missed here is that I have rook b1 in the game. And after bishop a3, rook a1. When here, I think he's still in quite some trouble. So knight f4 again would have been probably quite good. And if king g3, I think I also didn't see that I can just go back. Knight h5. He has to go to g2 and then just queen h4, and then rook g5 will come with with checkmate. Basically, this is just over. So that would have been another nice chance for me. But instead, I went rook f5. He played bishop e2. I took on h4. Rook h1 is forcing. Now queen e4, and here he went c4. I was expecting him to go rook f1 actually, when I didn't see anything better than to repeat moves. Maybe there's a way to play on for me, but I thought here this is the outcome of the game basically. That it's a draw here. But he went c4. I'm not sure if he saw rook f1 or if he was still playing for a win here. And here I took on f3, takes, and now it was an absolute disaster what I did. I played rook f3, which is just losing on the spot. Here I was already running way too low on time. Should have played faster before. But it was just so complicated before that I just needed to spend some time. And I was just absolutely panicking. I even saw that rook f3 is basically losing, but I wasn't quite sure if it is actually losing. I thought probably it is, but yeah, then I just went for it. I was just panicking. Queen e3 is very strong, which I also felt like should be the move. But again, it was just panic and I didn't go for it. And after queen e3, I guess with such low time for him, it's just incredibly hard for him to defend. I thought that rook f1 is here the best, and I just didn't see a way to continue, but also he doesn't have any moves to make, basically. I think the computer said rook f5, which I also thought about. The idea is just to prepare knight f4, when after king g3 I have rook g5. I think that was the move. Yeah, rook f5 is winning here. I guess also knight f4 and then rook f5 is winning. And yeah, the computer says that bishop d4 is the best way to defend. And here, what was there? I think, was it knight f4? Yeah, knight f4, king g3, and now knight h5 back. And I think the best line was for him to take. Now queen f4 check, king g2, and g takes h5, when it's still extremely unclear, but in general I have the much better chances because his king is still weaker than mine. So yeah, that was strong, and he cannot go back to g2 because I think I just have queen g5, and there will something come into g3, and bishop g4 also looks quite bad. I guess I have rook f4, which probably loses on the spot. Yeah, so here it was a disaster. I played rook f3, queen c2, and I even saw that after king h3, queen b2, he has rook f1. When I didn't see a defense yet, but I thought maybe there is something there. So I just went for it and thought, yeah, maybe I'm lucky and there's a defense here, but simply there isn't a defense. I'm just too slow and don't have anything here. Computer says that h6 is still the best defense, but I guess queen f7 and he can just take. My problem is that I don't have anything with queen h2 check. He can just go to g4 and the king is super safe here, while on the other hand queen f8 will come with checkmate. So yeah, I played queen g7, but after queen g4, queen e7, he played queen e6, and I resigned because he takes and then the pawn is just queening. So again, it was a super interesting game. I don't even feel so bad about it like after some other games. I mean, in the meanwhile, I'm just yeah, I realized that the tournament is simply not going my way. I made some bad decisions in general. This game, I think I played quite well. I mean, this bishop e3 idea was very nice overall, and some other ideas I also saw, but also my time management was better today. But I guess in the critical moments, then I again spent too much time. So I don't know what's going wrong. I guess it's just not my tournament. Of course, also kudos to my opponent who fought very well, and hopefully is the next generation of Austrian chess by how he's working and how he's playing. It certainly looks very promising. I was hoping that I could still kind of keep up with the young generation, but today was just not my day. And yeah, again, thank you guys for watching. I hope you found value in today's recap. I think the game was still quite interesting, and I hope you enjoyed some of the lines I was showing. And again, thank you for all of your support you've been showing me throughout the whole event. I'll try to just finish the tournament on a high note now. Probably one of the worst tournaments I played in quite a long time. But can I change it? Chess is brutal, and that's just how it is. So again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.